want to talk about Sully Specials, David Sullivan Specials. That's what I want to talk about today, when David Sullivan gets involved in transfer business. Now, before I do that, I've heard that Mikel Antonio is training with Leicester, and they might be offering him a new contract, well, contract to play football. I don't know much more about it than that. I just read it just before recording this video. I really hope that's true. I tell you now, I would love to see him play football again. I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. That's all. That's all I've got to say about that. Really. Thank you for your suggestions yesterday on your herb and condiment based footballers. I'm going to allow a few more to come in. Then we'll deal with that over the weekend. Our combined 11. First one I saw was Pepper Reina, like that, to go with Lee Parsley, who will obviously be the manager. Salt Campbell. You get the idea. I'll look through the comments for both days to get that little bit of fun. Okay, Sully Special. What's a Sully Special? Him getting involved in transfers, like I said, heard it a few times. We've always known it happens, but I want to talk about how it might impact the next window. Not just that, how he might be growing overconfident with it. I had an interesting conversation with somebody this morning, which is why that's the video of the day. It was by far the most interesting conversation I've had all day. Actually, there you go. That being said, I've only spoken to one person, so it can't be hard, right? I think he might be growing confident, and for a number of reasons. See, David Sullivan likes to be involved in transfers. He likes to buy players, and he doesn't really like it when somebody else does it. We've heard lots of things over the years. In the first time we really had it confirmed was from Sam Allardyce, who said, yeah, he does like to get involved. He does like to buy a player. Then did an interview with Barry Silkman years and years ago. And he said, yeah, he does. He gets involved. And I think he said he will. Every so often, he'll almost a gift. That's what he says. He'll give the manager a gift. So he might let the manager pick 5 or 6 players and say, there you go, here's one of mine. Now, the ratio differs, by the way. It might be 1 in 6, might be 1 in 20. It might be, if he had his way, it'd be everyone, I think. But I think we're certainly back on that again. This is why he doesn't like to delegate responsibility for this stuff. He wants to be involved, I think, in many respects. I won't be the only one who suspects him of playing football manager with a real football club. He won't go and get the game. He's doing it actually with a football club. And I've long suspected with him that he gets annoyed with managers and recruitment directors or directors of football when they get things wrong. I think less annoyed than he gets with himself. So I think if Sullivan makes a mistake on a player, it's sort of forgotten. If a director of football makes a mistake, it is duly noted. We'll start off with an example. There's loads of examples and loads of stuff I want to talk about here, but I do think for a very, very good reason, the dynamic has changed, because I think he will feel he's had 3 successes in the 2 successes in the summer and 1 from last summer, and I think he's probably seen enough errors for him to convince him that actually I've got it right. I don't need these other people. Well, I'll suggest the evidence is to the contrary. So I'll give you an example. He is very, very annoyed with Tim Stuyton for the hiring of Nicholas Fulkrug, which has been a disaster of a transfer, right? We don't need to go back through the details of why Nicholas Fulkrug's transfer has been a disaster. Let's assume we all know, and everybody here is a West Ham fan, and you'll know the Nicholas Fulkrug story, right? So let's not bore you with the details of that. But that's Tim Stuyton's fault. So sort of, he's wasted my money. That's the way Sullivan's thinking about it. That Tim, he's wasted my money. £27 million on this injury-prone striker. Now, there's a little bit more context and a little bit more nuance to the story, which is actually Tim Stuyton wanted John Duran. You surely know the story by now. Agreed it to such an extent that Duran never thought he was going back to the Villa training ground. That's why he went on his Instagram and did the crossed hammers and whatnot. They wanted 38 million, Villa. We offered 35. And we said, look, don't worry, we'll come to a compromise. We didn't find the extra 3 million. So in the end, Stuyton had to find somebody else, and quite quickly as well. And that was Fulkrug. So it's a case of Tim's crap, right? Tim's crap. Tim So use that as evidence. Tim finds crap players. I think he used the Guilherme evidence as well. And then that's pretty much that. What it's not factored in is there too much difference between Nicholas Füllkrug and Danny Ings, which is very much a Sully special. It was a panicked Sully special. And what's again, you don't need me to tell you what was wrong with Danny Ings, but he was completely unsuited to the manager that we had at the time as well, which was obviously David Moyes. 15 million that one, and a big wages. We just lost a load of money. And again, you don't ever feel that that's duly noted. That's not, you don't ever get the news of that leaked out from the club, but you're always hearing how bad the Füllkrug transfer was. So just two examples of two failed striker transfers. One of them was Sullivan and one of them was somebody else. And as I say, when it's not him, it's used as an example, to make an example of. When it is him, oh, don't worry about that. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. And the reason I think this is really important right now is because of what's just happened in the summer. And that is, he would have received a lot of stick for the hiring of what he did for Callum Wilson. Nobody wanted Callum Wilson to come in. And in hindsight, it looks like that actually, that on a free transfer, that was pretty damn wise to do that, which will make him feel emboldened. Now, again, there's more context and nuance to the story, really, isn't there? Because we should never have been in that situation. We were only so desperate that we needed to sign this injury-prone veteran striker because we'd been so bad at buying strikers throughout the years. But I think he'll look at that and think, there you go, I got that right. Nobody wanted him. They're wrong, I'm right. And then you also look at Carl Walker-Peters. He'll probably look at that, and I would expect Carl Walker-Peters to come into his own very soon when Diouf and Wan-Bissaka go off to the African Cup of Nations. He's probably thinking, yeah, I'm glad I did that. And of course, the other one, which is where the conversation came from, was Somerville. He was the one that pushed for Somerville. That was a Sullivan signing. I think if you also factor in that eventually I don't know whether he persuaded Will Salthouse or Will Salthouse persuaded him for Wan-Bissaka, but whichever one it is, he'll be thinking that that's a good bit of business as well. So I remember an interview that he did 3 or 4 years ago, and he was talking about backing the manager, and he said, well, you have to back the manager, don't you? But it wasn't said with any encouragement. It wasn't said with any relish. In a way that I might say, well, you have to take the bins out, don't you? I don't want to do it. It's pissing with rain. I don't particularly want to take the bins out, but you got to. You got to, got to take the bins out, right? I felt the interview was a bit like that. You got to back the manager, haven't you? But he didn't want to. And I feel we might be in this situation now, and a lot of it's down to Mads Samansson. I think it's going to be very interesting, and what happened with Mads Samansson, because I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens now. Because what's the date now? So I've got the wrong glasses on there. 12th. The transfer window is upon us. It is imminent. Before I talk about that, can I just interest you in an offer that we've got at Hammers Chat? Do you like Hammers Chat? I'm hoping you do, which is why you're watching the video. Would you like to make a gift to somebody that also likes Hammers Chat this Christmas? Because what we've got is a 20% discount of our Hammers Chat Patreon. And for those of you that don't know, Hammers Chat Patreon is basically our third Hammers Chat channel, where there's a load of extra content, a load of extra videos that you don't normally get on either this channel or the other Hammers Chat channel on YouTube. We have competitions, we have ticket giveaways. There's a lot of stuff that goes on Patreon. And we have 3 different tiers, basically. We've got a supporters tier, which is just £3.60 a month. That's all it is. We've got a middle tier, and we've got what's called an addicts tier, which is £10 a month. And obviously, the further you go up in the tier system, the more content you get, the more prizes you get in the competitions. We got a lot of stuff. So basically, if you know somebody that likes Hammers Chat and they like watching these videos, they're probably going to love Patreon as well because it's just more, and more again. The link is in the description below. It's patreon.com/hammerschat. But if you put a gift at the end of that, so patreon.com/hammerschat/gift, you'll get 20% off for the year. So you can gift it to yourself if you want. But if you know somebody that likes West Ham, you're looking to get them a gift, then this may well be a really, really good option for you. Also, it's a little bit of a Christmas present for Hammers Chat as well, because it's a great way for you guys to support the channel, particularly while we're crapping it over what's going to happen next season and whatnot. Best way you can support the channel is via our Patreon, basically. We'd really appreciate it. Lots of extra stuff going on over there. The link is in the description below. But as I say, the link, even if you just Google Hammers Chat Patreon, still make sure you've done the /gift bit at the end, because then you get your 20% off. So go and get your 20% off. It's the biggest offer we've done since we started Patreon 5 years ago. We've been going a long time. And to everybody that is a patron, we really can't thank you enough. Honestly, it gets to that point every month where Patreon let you take the money out of the account, and quite frankly, it's a godsend. And I can't say any more than that. It really is. Just Alex, we just taken our money out, which we're going to pay for our Christmases. So we really appreciate it. So thank you very much for doing that. There you go. Right, Mads Samansson. Right, here's the problem. We were building up a picture here with David Sullivan where he's looking at whoever brings in the players and thinking, you're no good at this. It might be a manager. It might be Tim Stuyton. It might be Carl McCauley. I'm not going to tell you the Carl McCauley story in any detail again, but just to skim over it. We thought Carl McCauley brought in Diouf, Magassa, and Fernandes. The moment they turned out to be any good, it was said, "Oh no, that was Sullivan's scout. That was Max Hahn that brought them in." So now it turns out that Carl McCauley brought no one in. I don't believe that, but that's the narrative, right? But again, it's one of those things that I know better. Not me, Sullivan. But a really good example, one transfer we do have really good clarity on, is the Mads Samansson one. That's because Sullivan was very public about it. He did not want Mads Hermansen, and he made it very, very clear to anyone that was willing to listen that it was actually, this was Graham Potter's choice. Now, that's not even in doubt. There's some players you look at and you don't really know who signed them. There's no doubt about that. He did not want them. He did not want Mads Samansson. Not only did not want Mads Samansson, his own scouts. So he's got his own little set of scouts, basically. They were saying, don't get him. He's no good. You want to get, what's his name? John Victor from Botafogo instead, which is why you had that charade where he was hanging around at the airport. Sullivan really, really wanted to bring John Victor in. Then it got to it, and then it was one of those things again where he thought, I've got to back the manager. Oh, God. Got to back the manager. So he did. He backed the manager. And then, as far as Sullivan's concerned, Hermansen comes in, can't catch a football. And then he said, right, look there. I told you he was crap. We should have done it my way. And then you heard, honestly, I've heard it myself. We've wasted £15 million on this player. I think we only paid £12 million for him, by the way, which is fortunate. But he's useless. And this was the noises that were coming out of the club. He's useless. Should have done it my way. So he only feels further emboldened by the fact that I don't need these people. It was a reluctant appointment, Tim Stuyton, a reluctant appointment. It was Kretinsky said we need to modernise. We need to get a director of football. It's Kretinsky's recommendation. And again, so I think, all right, if I must. I think he had a lot. I think, to be fair, I think he had a lot going on anyway. And, and I don't know. Maybe he was happy to step away, but maybe at the time, and then he thought better of it. I don't know. But he likes being involved. He likes being involved in every facet of West Ham that he can be, Sullivan. And he likes being involved. I reckon his favourite bit is the transfers. It's just so hard. Honestly, you've got a dog got one of those rope toys and you're trying to pull. you're trying to pull the rope toy away from the dog. I think it's like that. I think that's like trying to wrestle transfer power from Sullivan. It's like me trying to get a tennis ball out of Zippy's mouth, basically. And I think he already thought he could probably do a better job than directors of football. Certainly the case, with Macaulay, and now more than ever. Because let me just say this much: I do think that in Maximilian Hahn, I do think he is a good talent spotter. I think that is clear. He really is, and I think Sullivan's got a lot of faith in him as well. But it's not really the way we should be going. We shouldn't be relying on this. We should have a proper structure in place. And this takes me back to my other video that I said the other day, and we're about to find out the signings of Magassa, the signings of Fernandes, and of course Malik Diouf are very, very different. 20 years age, 20 and 21 years of age, three of them. Very un-West Ham. Very high ceiling for their potential, increasing in value. That's the way you do it. Those are the transfers, not what we've been doing. We've been more like actually what we've done there, more like Callum Wilson and Carl Walker-Peters. Nothing against those players. I think, as I say, and the Wilson one has surprised me. I hold my hands up there. I said, "What the hell are we doing?" Now I'm glad we did. Okay, I got that wrong. That's fine. I actually always wanted Carl Walker-Peters. I've been watching the channel a long time. You know that. I thought he'd be an astute squad signing, and he'll prove to be that. But they're more the type of players that we would bring in. To bring in three players, 20 and 21 years of age with, that look like they've been scouted properly. I mean, this is really, really good. But anyway, it brings us to this coming transfer window. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. Because you've got a situation now where you're thinking of Sully Specials. Maybe there are some Sully Specials coming. We don't want the traditional Sully Special, because for every Diafra Sacco, there is a Wellington Paulista. In fact, what I'd say is, for every Diafra Sacco, who was a Sully Special, let's give him his credit where it's due, there have been 10 Wellington Paulistas. I can't remember who the manager was. Remember, Birmingham City signed a player called Christian Benitez and paid a lot of money for him. And whoever the manager was at the time was not happy. That was not the player that the manager wanted. Anyway, there you go. Different story, different club. What is interesting in this dynamic is we could have a Sully Special, or maybe if we hope that actually it was Max Hahn who was doing all the digging, maybe if that was true, that would be brilliant. Because it would mean a 21-year-old striker would rock up and whatnot. That would be great. But then you've got the Nuno Espírito Santo, and it's worth remembering this, that Espírito Santo left Nottingham Forest, so we're led to believe, because he had a fallout with Edu. Because he couldn't get Adama Traore. I don't know how true that is. It sounds like a convenient story. I wouldn't be surprised if that's half the story. Two sides to every story, right? But you do hear that he didn't like working under a director of football. And I'd heard through an agent before Nuno was even linked to West Ham that he liked using Jorge Mendes clients. That's what he liked to do. So I don't know what's going to happen. In many respects, I really like Nuno as a manager. Let me make that clear. I'm very, very happy with him. I think he's our best chance of staying up. So I'm no complaints about Nuno at all. But I do think I do wonder if anything's really changed at West Ham, if we find this situation where you've almost got three different people suggesting signings. Well, I don't know. I don't know how healthy it is. And it's so important now. It's so important. It's never been more important. Maybe you could think of one, and probably there is one, but it feels at the moment, that feels like there's been no more important transfer window than this one. Anyway, there you go. Just my thoughts. Sully Specials, herb and condiment based footballers. Let me know what you got.